literally, why is naming a business so difficult? Like, it needs to tick so many boxes. Like, it needs to hint to what the product is. It needs to be easy to remember. It needs to be a big enough umbrella for future pivots and growth. It needs to be not too connected to me, but somewhat connected to me to capitalize on growth in the short term. It needs to not be trademarked. It needs to have the Instagram handle, the domain. Like, there's so many things to think about. And it feels like a lot of pressure. But if you remember, done is better than perfect. And a name can always change. As long as the brand and the products are strong enough, the name is just the label, right? At least that's what I'm telling myself. Welcome to the third video. I just knocked my smoothie as I did that. In this series of me starting a brand new product-based business. This is editing AB here. I'm going to be narrating this video because it kind of doesn't make sense without me talking you through it. I do just want to say sorry for taking so long to continue this series. If you noticed, that is, people probably won't notice because no one really cares that much. But if you did notice, sorry that it's taken a while. My only excuse is that things are just incredibly full on. I've got an already demanding business, this new business being started, and lots of fun personal stuff in the mix. So this video has taken a while, but it is here, you are watching it, and I'm very excited about that because this video is going to be sharing with you the process of picking a name. Now, if you've watched the two previous videos, you will know that picking a name was a big question mark for me. I just could not figure out how to pick a name or what the name was going to be. And it felt like a pretty big question because so many things relied on a name being chosen. Without a name, I couldn't do the legal stuff, I couldn't apply for funding, we couldn't really do the brand, the product designs, get samples. So a lot of things relied on the name being picked. And because I'm on such a tight timeline, I couldn't dilly-dally, and it felt like a lot of pressure. So what you're going to see in this video is a whole lot of back and forth where Alice thinks she's picked a name and then she goes back and then she picks it and then she goes back. So let me bring you back right to the very start, which is that a week into the business, I was staying at my parents' house, which is the clip that you've just seen. And as I was falling asleep, I was trying to brainstorm names. I knew the next morning I was going to be sitting down to try and think of a name. So hello, when you're a business owner, you then do that as you're falling asleep instead. And I was thinking up these different names, and honestly, I felt like I was a member of The Apprentice. You know, and they pick their team names and they are just absolute shite. But I ended up coming across the name Productive, and it was Productive without the E. Don't ask why it was without the E. I just thought a little bit edgy, a little bit different. And I, at midnight, was like, this is it. I think I've done it. I grabbed the Instagram handle. I checked that I could get the trademark and domain, but I didn't do it just yet. I was like, I'll sleep on it, but I think I've picked a name, Productive. And I woke up in the morning with a spring in my step, like, I've done it. I've chosen a name. That was so easy. And I went and had a conversation with my incredibly wise dad, who didn't say that he didn't like the name, but just made some very valid points about what I should be looking for in the business name that I have.
I think AB is quite strong.
What, just calling the shop AB? Nothing more, not like the AB shop or shop AB or AB products.
Productive.
AB Productive, yeah. AB Products, AB Productions. I just don't know if
I
that...
think all those companies just have random, like, you think like Amazon or whatever. There's no.
Well, that's what I was thinking with Productive. It's almost vague, it's pretty vague, isn't it?
I think AB's already got a bit of traction, hasn't it?
Now, the main thing that I took from that conversation was that I should really consider how I want the brand to interact with my current personal brand. Now, I was really set, and you'll know this from the first video, on like, I want it to be completely separate to me. I don't want it to link to me at all because I want it to be scalable. I want it to be sellable, and I don't want it to have the same bottleneck that my current business has, which is that it's attached to a single person. Now, my dad made the good point that there can be a middle ground between those two extremes where I don't have to have a brand that's completely detached from me, and I can actually capitalize on the growth that that's going to help the business to have in the short term. And I guess I hadn't considered that yet, that there might be a different way of doing things. So that conversation really shoved me back to the drawing board. I went back upstairs to my childhood bedroom and I was like, right, let's have a look again. And I was coming up with new ideas, and it was when I was scrolling through Pinterest, I was making a Pinterest board for my designer Lauren, that I saw the word, or the words put together, off paper. And I was like, off paper, that's cool. What about on paper? And there was this kind of light bulb moment where I was like, well, that makes sense. Like, the products are on paper. They help you to get your ideas and vision on paper. And I kind of looked into both Productive and on paper as concepts. They were both the same in that I could kind of trademark them, get the domain. So it's just about deciding which felt like a better fit. So I did some mock-ups. And then again, this is the second time Alice thinks she's picked the name. I was like, cool. we've got it on paper. That's the one I want to go with. It's a little bit clearer than productive. Let's make that decision. So what you're about to see is me making that decision and then this is true Alice fashion, make a quick decision, take all the action immediately. Like, I'm now going to set everything up. So this is then what happened. Once again, I thought I had chosen a name. Right, this is where we're at. So we've got productive and we've got on paper. I'm leaning towards on paper now. I was pretty attached to productive. I thought it was edgy, but I think this makes more sense. Obviously, it's going to look a lot better than this when the designer does it, but I'm a fan. These are my other concepts, but the name has been chosen. So I have bought the domain, created my first email address, secured the Instagram handle, and set up the company. Created my second business in the same bedroom that I started my first business in 6 years ago. Don't judge me for not making my bed, all right? I had a lot to do this morning, just thought I'd get straight up. And do you know what? That is a refreshing feeling. Last night when I was sat in bed brainstorming ideas, I was like, I have not felt this just like naturally excited in a project in quite a while. So this was really fun. Now, as you're probably gathering by the tone of this video and also the length of how much is still to come, that wasn't quite the end of the story. I then went downstairs and had a conversation with my family and asked them to give me their opinions on these two names, productive and on paper. And I also went home and had a conversation with my brilliant housemate Jess and my friends Josh and Zav and asked them for their opinions too. And this was the part where it really all started to unravel, because I was getting all of these opinions which were all really valid. Everyone was making amazing points, but it was just making me go, I no longer know. I thought I was so set. Now I feel like I am back at square one trying to pick between these two names, and I'd completely lost the clarity that I had had earlier that morning. Okay, so this is number one. Can we all see it?
Productive.
Yeah, productive. How do you say that? Productive?
Just like productive, but without the E.
Okay.
Right? Number one or number two?
On paper.
I like two.
I like to,
Why?
because if it's calendars, that's very like.
Makes more sense.
The
Jacob?
first one's just misspelled.
I prefer productive.
I like productive.
Yeah.
How would you say it though?
Productive.
Productive.
Oh, I'd say productive.
Productive.
Zach?
I like on paper.
Why?
Simple, says what it does on the tin.
What if you want to expand your brand though, Al? On paper's got you very pigeonholed.
Because it has to be paper.
You can have different brands on wood, on metal.
No, I'm not going to do that, am I? Number one?
Productive.
Yeah.
It's spelled wrong, though, isn't it?
No, it's edgy though without the E. Or number two?
Well, I don't
So
like
it's-
things that are spelt wrong. That's my only thing. You see, it would just upset
you off,
me.
would it?
Yeah, I think that's.
But I think with the E, it's a weird business name. So it's going to be stationery for business owners, like planners and to-do lists, things like that. So you've got that, productive, without the E. Don't ask me why.
Somebody done this for you?
No, this is me. Just it won't look like this. It will look better than
Or
this.
on paper.
I vote productive.
You want to say it productive, do you?
104.
Dad, what's your vote? So we've got productive or on paper.
Yeah, on paper just doesn't
That's so funny.
it doesn't
I
yeah.
completely disagree.
What do you think, Jay?
I
I'll
way
show you
prefer-
then.
I way prefer on paper as
So
a brand.
productive. My brothers would pronounce it productive.
Well, no, that's completely fucking wrong. It's productive.
Productive
Yeah.
on paper.
I way prefer on paper
Why?
because that's exactly what it is. It's getting your
Ideas
mind and your
onto
brain
paper.
and everything
Ideas on
onto
paper.
paper.
Yeah.
And I
Whereas
do
productive
wonder with-
is like great, you're productive.
And it's a word, so it's a bit like if someone just says, "Oh, have you shopped at Productive?" I feel like I'd need to make it a massive brand for people to actually get to know that word. Whereas I feel like on paper,
I think on paper sounds like a new brand.
and it does obviously hint to what like productive
I
doesn't
guess-
tell you what it is on paper.
Well,
Play
productive.
on words, it's paper products.
I guess
and
my
it's
question also
organisation.
would be why no E.
I don't know, I sure looked edgy. I just thought you can't call a business just productive. It sounds like a shitty apprentice name.
Could just-
Productive's got a bigger umbrella to it. that could turn into any kind of business product based, whereas this would need to stay as stationary, but I don't think it is
Because
gonna.
to me, the productive thing is like,
I'm leaning towards on paper. Productive tells you the impact of the products. On paper tells you the format of the products and almost the process of them. It's going to help you get your ideas onto paper. They are paper products, whereas productive sells the end goal. People are more motivated by the end goal than they are by the journey to get there.
if I had a paper pad that says on paper,
You'd prefer
or a paper that
productive.
says productive,
That's a really good point.
I
like
know I'm
it.
writing on paper.
I like it being one word as well. And you're right, if you think about product placement, what would I want to see
on a thing.
on the pad,
Yeah.
on the pen, on
On
the
the
coffee
paper.
cup? Productive.
It's a fair point. It's a good one to add to the.
Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry.
So alongside speaking to the people that you saw in those videos, my poor friends and business owners that I knew were being bombarded by WhatsApp messages, just being like, here's the name concepts, what do you think? Give me your pros and cons. And it was a really useful process because it helped me to understand the pros and cons of both of the names. I see it a lot in business, especially with the work that I do with clients, that when we're making a decision, whether it's do I call my business this name or this name, or do I do this opportunity or not, or do I go in this direction or this, it's so rarely that there is one option that's right and one option that's wrong. What I notice a lot in my clients' businesses and in my own is that either option will probably be a good fit, but they've both got pros and cons, and you've got to consider which set of pros and cons better align with your priorities and what's important to you. So for me, it was spending all of this time gathering these pros and cons and better understanding these two options that I had. And the kind of basic overview of it was that productive is great because it speaks to the impact of the products. And it's also a wider umbrella if I want to move away from paper products or kind of diversify what the business is down the line. The cons of productive is that I would be constantly saying, oh, it's productive without the E, or oh, you got my email address wrong because there's no E on it. And people might not know how to pronounce it or how to spell it, which is a huge thing with a name. But then if we go to on paper, I didn't think that on paper was as kind of punchy and impactful. But instead of speaking to the impact of the products, it speaks more to the format of them and the process, which again is kind of a different purpose of a name, but still nice. And the benefits of on paper is that it is, easy to remember, easy to spell, easy to say. And for about 4 days, I was just kind of gathering all of that information, basically, getting loads of people's opinions. And I got to a point, I think it was the Thursday of that week, where I was like, I just need to make a decision now. I can't wait for someone to tell me what's right or wrong. These are both good name options, or at least good enough. I'm going to need to just pick one of these. And it was on the Thursday, and you'll have seen this in the previous video, when I was in my co-working space and I got sent the design mock-ups by Lauren, my designer, and I could see both of them in this branding that we were developing. And it was when I saw that I was like, I know which decision I want to make, and I know which route I want to go down. So the clip you're about to see is me slightly tipsy, I won't lie, in London, having made that decision. I mean, if this is not reality of what running a business is actually like, you're en route to a bar and that's where you make a fundamental choice about your business's future. I don't know what is, but commence decision being made. All right, Jess, what time is it?
It's 6:56 p.m. on Thursday, the 4th of November 2021.
We are en route to a bar. However, I have just received an email with the final design concepts, and the name we are going for is
On paper.
There she goes. It was actually Jess's favourite from the start, wasn't
Always. I backed it. The
She
full
was
way,
team on
the whole
paper.
time. I loved it. And I still do. I love it.
it? Love
Buzzing.
it. Name chosen. Let's go celebrate.
Let's go celebrate.
And that was the name chosen. So on paper was the one that I went with. I won't lie, I was incredibly relieved that that was the choice I ended up making, because as you'll have seen earlier in this video, I set up all of the business stuff in the on paper name, and it's not the end of the world, but I would have had to redo all of that work for a different name if I were to go down a different route. It's kind of like trying on outfits, isn't it? Like the first one you try on is the one that you end up choosing. But I think I needed to go through the process of kind of questioning it and better understanding what my options were to then make a really clear and really confident decision. And now it's like a no-brainer. I'm like, of course on paper's the name. Like, it's so good. I think it makes sense, it's clear, it still provides a big enough umbrella for a future business. And now that I'm seeing it like on the products and mocked up, it's just so exciting to see. So as soon as I picked that name, I trademarked it. So the trademark is now kind of in the process of being hopefully approved. And then it was time to launch the name or launch the business and share it with the world. So commence the final section of this video, which is that process. This project is just a constant reminder of the phrase done is better than perfect. I am prepping the announcement for tomorrow where I'm going to be sharing the name and opening up the waitlist, and I just know it could be so much better. I really wanted to do it via the Shopify site so that the URL was the proper domain that I've bought, and I don't know, I just know I say I could do it better, but if I were to do it better, I would be taking more time, or I would be deprioritizing other things that need to be prioritized, or I would just be doing stuff that no one really cares about. And I just have to keep reminding myself, done is better than perfect. Sticking to such a tight timeline means that I don't always have the capacity to get things perfect, and that is okay. And it's always a good reminder in business, isn't it? Nobody cares. Like, nobody is watching what you're doing as closely as you think they are. No one really cares that the URL for the waitlist is going to be a Flowdesk link instead of onpaper.shop. No one really gives a shit. It's just me that cares. And I think that's always a good reminder to have. Who actually cares? And do you really need to do it? So we're ready to go. Instagram posts are drafted, graphics created, waitlist complete. Ready to share it with the world. I've just announced it and I feel really overwhelmed. I don't know what I was expecting, but people are so generous with their response. I cannot believe it. It's been 15 minutes and we already have 83, you can't see that, 83 followers. I didn't think people would actually want to follow along. I think I'm only just realising, like, this is a whole nother business. Like, this isn't just another arm to my business that's pretty easy to, you know, get rid of or scale back or whatever. This is a whole nother business. Like, I'm committing to 2 businesses. I'm like, hi, my name's Alice Benham, great to meet you. I am the owner of 2 businesses. Although I don't really know how to explain it, because it's like, I'm Alice Benham, I run a service-based company called Alice Benham Limited, and I run a product-based. I'm going to need to get better at my intros, but people are just so generous with their responses. It's really kind, and it's a great reminder of that the internet is a brilliant place. I feel like there's a lot of negativity at the moment of like, Instagram's changed and online communities feel different, and I'm like, sure, they probably do look a little bit different, but they're still people, and people are brilliant, or they can be brilliant, and I'm just so grateful that I get the privilege of having such a brilliant community. I don't really know what to do with myself now. I've got loads of work to do. I need to sit and respond to emails and do client feedback, but it just all feels a little bit much. It is the end of announcement day. It is 9:30 p.m. I'm sofa working. Jess is there doing something.
Hello, friends.
Yeah. And she doesn't know what I'm doing. It has been a good day. I'd say the word to sum up today would be overwhelming. There's just a lot going on at the moment, this week especially. I've got announcement today, another announcement tomorrow, big new thing on Wednesday. It's just a lot going on at once, but it's all good stuff. And I'm also just overwhelmed by how lovely people's response was. There are, let me refresh it, 149 people on the wait list. I think there's over 450 people following the Instagram, which is mad. It took me, I think, about a year to get that number of followers on my current business account. And yeah, people have just been so incredibly lovely. It is wild to think that 3 weeks ago today was when I decided to start this business. So 3 weeks from deciding to launching, which is mad. I mean, obviously the products and the ideas and everything else has been forming for a lot longer than that, but it's been a full-on 3 weeks. I mean, I think my stress levels can probably be summed up by how much I've eaten this pen. That's really disgusting, isn't it? But it's real life. But very exciting day tomorrow because the samples arrive, and a lot is riding on these samples. If they're great, we are on track for the timeline. All systems go. If they're not, a spanner will well and truly be put in the works. So let's wait and see what happens with these samples, which is going to make a big difference to whether this business in 4 weeks thing really happens. but I'm letting tomorrow worry about tomorrow. Today is a good day. It's been an exciting one. I am very ready to get some sleep and see what tomorrow brings.
Several days later.
I thought that was going to be the end of the video. Alice can't pick a name. Alice picks a name. Alice launches the name. But there might be a bit of a spanner in the works. I've just received an email from the Intellectual Property Office with a trademark correspondence update, which basically says that there's a few other trademarks that they think might basically contest my trademark. So there's one that's called fashion on paper, there's one that's called future on paper, and there's one that's called begins on paper. Now, I don't think that's enough reason to not let me have it. And from what I've seen, those businesses aren't trading. And if they are trading, they're not trading online. So I'm going to take my risk, go ahead and say, yep, keep going with that trademark. If they come fight me, I will fight back with very limited funds and probably myself as a lawyer. But I don't think I've got anything to worry about. Might be famous last words, but I'm not going to not move forwards with this name just because of that. So who knows? Maybe there'll be a video in 6 months' time that's like, I'm having to change the name and go to productive. But hopefully this is just a little bit of a spanner in the works. And I have spoken to a few people who said the same has happened to them and the people didn't contest it. So basically what happens now is I say to them, yep, I'm okay with the risk, try and get it trademarked. They're then going to tell these people and say, look, this gal's trying to trademark something that you might care about. And then they have an opportunity to basically say, we're not happy with that. So hopefully they wake up on the right side of the bed on the day that they get that email and they're feeling lovely and kind and they go, do you know what, I do want to support a female entrepreneur and I'm not going to tell her that she can't get that trademark. So if we could all just keep our fingers crossed for that, that would be great. But this is the end of this video. It has been a long one to create, probably quite a long one to watch. So thank you again for watching. The next video, let me tell you, if you thought this one had drama in it, the next video is, I can't even, it's just full of issues and stress and illness and real highs but also real lows. So I'll see you in the next one. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. I think I've really sold it with that explanation, but we're launching very soon, so watch this space.